Hello, everybody. May 7th. It's Wednesday. How about that? Epidemic Sound Instrumental. Our royalty-free, no copyright, which I keep in the background because we're streaming. Remember? Streaming. Drip, drip, drip. You want everything. You always want something going through the internet. You know? It's like being up north. You have to, when it gets real cold outside, you want to go outside and you want to open up those hose bibs a little bit so that the water is constantly going through, and that keeps the pipe from freezing. So this background Epidemic Sound Instrumental is like the water dripping through the faucet, because we don't want it to freeze and stop. We need a constant flow. Although I need to turn it down a bit because I can't hear myself think. God forbid that. And I'm trying to also adjust this microphone, which is different. This is the Electro Voice. This is the microphone that Rush Limbaugh used. I mean, not the actual one. I'm sure that's encased in plexiglass forever, because he had 25 million people listening to what he had to say every day. I'm lucky if I get 25. Well, I've had up to 50. I have 1,000. I have 2,500 friends. Hello. Come on, friends. Listen. I have something to say. Usually. Pick a topic. I usually pick topics by my pictorial method. As you can see, the producer will get me over on the right side where I belong. Come on, swap the cameras. There you go. Yeah. I need to get the clock in there so we know what time it is. There it is. It's AM. It is 9:06. There we go. Someone must have bumped into this little camera. Or Marilyn probably moved that. That's her iPad. In case you can't tell. There we go. Oh yeah, I do it this way. Trying to figure out how to turn the camera. Yeah, there we go. There we go, just like that. Maybe we can, yeah, I guess that's, it's on, what do you call it? Screensaver, so that 906 will move around a little bit on that iPad. That's right. Right behind this microphone. There's the time. Right there. 9:07. That's the real time, by the way, as opposed to the fake time. Yep. Let's see. We gotta move that. I don't see my counter over there in the corner. Oops. It just turns off. Oh, yeah. He keeps track. Uh-huh. Let's bend this over a little bit more. Yeah. There you go, 908. You can see it. I guess I'll have to ship that over. Marilyn was on, she was on a conference call with the Rotary until 8:30 last night. Can you imagine? Whew. Daniel came over and I had to chat with him all by myself. Not that that's any big chore. May 7th, it's Wednesday. It's amazing how time flies. And you're having a good time. Interesting. I got these little dots on here, which I don't know what they're all about. Oop, I got rid of one of them. Let's see if I can get rid of this one. I don't know if you can see them. Little squares in the middle there. All right, what's going on in the world? We got at least 3 dead and 7 missing. A small boat went sick in San Diego. You know, that water is cold. Yeah, so those people that you see, most of everybody is walking. They're getting their feet wet. There are only a few brave souls that want to get up to the knee. But the Pacific Ocean is beautiful to look at. I wouldn't recommend swimming, though. No. Here's a new device. That's 2 millimeters. That's about the size of a credit card. Particularly if it's got the USB tap, you know, where you tap it on there with a Wi-Fi tap instead of having to swipe the card or stick it in something. This is, you've heard of an AirTag, which is something that let me turn epidemic down a little bit more. There we go. It's in my ear, it's driving me nuts. There we go. Is that better? Anyway, the AirTag is the little round guy, little round white thing that Apple came up with, called an AirTag, which you can put in your luggage. You can slip one in the glove compartment of your car or under the floor mat in your car, and it'll track. You know, it'll track where you are. Let's try. Anyway, this card is like an AirTag, except instead of using, you know, a 2-year lithium battery, the CR2032, this is rechargeable. Yeah, you see, there it is. You slip it in your wallet. It's just like a credit card. But you see how there's up on the top there, there's an oblong hole which you can use to attach to your luggage. See right here. You can attach it to a bag. You can put it inside a bag. You don't have to have it on the outside. You can stick it right in there. It's waterproof. And you put it on the same kind of a charger that you would put your phone on. You can see the disc right here. That white disc. So any of the, I guess, Apple charging discs or charging doodads, it'll recharge it, and it's good for 5 months. So say 4 months. Let's say. Seems like they always say more than what it really is. So this is a wallet, kind of an AirTag. You can't really put an AirTag in your wallet. Now, ladies sometimes have a little purse doodad, that where you can put your coins. So you could just throw your AirTag in there with your coins, with your quarters, nickels, and dimes, to keep track of your wallet in case your wallet, you forget your wallet. You leave it somewhere. Someone takes it. If someone takes it, they're going to get out of it what they want and pitch it in the trash, throw it in the bushes or something. After they take the money, a couple of credit cards, try to go buy a few things. Yeah. Anyway, this AirTag is nice because it's easy to stick anywhere. It's dark. It's not stuck with a bunch of bright colors and everything to make it noticeable, bring attention to it. I can show you what AirTag is all about. I don't have one of these credit card things, but you see on the, you can't see. Gotta go full screen here. There we go. You see on the lower left here, Jim's wallet. It's home. You can see the location says home. I can touch it. It shows where home is. There's a warning. There's a little battery with a red indication. Replace the battery. Okay, I'll have to go find that doodad and do that. Jim's secondary keys. There's no warning there on low wallet. That's hanging. That's hanging where we have the keys hanging. But see, I have one of these. In the glove box of the Tesla automobile. Where's the Tesla car? It says it's over there at St. Andrews Drive. Let's see if I can get my Tesla app going. I don't believe that's the right location. Yeah, it's Marilyn's car is parked at the Seacoast Bank. Yeah, parking space. She was in West Palm yesterday in training, so she's in the branch today. Okay, let's go back to Find My and see if we can see. The AirTag is good for it'll give you the general vicinity where it is. Let's see where. Here, Maryland is right near where that town center sign is. So that's needs to have that. Oh, that also says replace battery. So that battery might be because yeah. And you just hit that and it tells you what to do. You just rotate that counterclockwise and pull the top off and put a new CR32 battery in there. I have some in the kitchen in the drawer, in the battery drawer. Actually, it's got a lot more in batteries in that drawer. So that's the story. So my only complaint is they need more rechargeable. They need a double, whatever kind of flat little skinny lithium battery they got in there, which to fit in a 2 millimeter card. That means the battery can't be more than 1 millimeter. It needs to be twice as big because, you charge it every 5 months. I mean, that's like, I'd be lucky if I can find it in 5 months. Yeah, we need more time on that, buddy. That would be my instant impression of this, what are they calling it? Wallet-friendly tracker. Key Smart. Right there, say Key Smart. I like it, except it doesn't last long enough. 5 months on a single charge. Not enough time. Need more time. There you go. There's a credit card, and there's Key Smart. Key Smart is I don't think a credit card is actually 2 millimeters. I think it'd be 1.5 millimeters. But it's certainly not 8 millimeters thick, like the AirTag. You can see the comparison right there. Yeah. So for general, stick it in your baggage and all that kind of stuff. You can make a little slit in the lining of your bags, if there is a lining, and shove it in there. And just keep track of where stuff is. Particularly if you travel and you check your bags, or even if you don't check your bags. People can walk off with your bags, even if it's not in the airplane locker. Anyway, so this Key Smart, it's an alternative. It's skinny, fits in the wallet. It's easy enough to pull out of the wallet and just stick it on one of those chargers. Everyone's got those chargers laying around. We certainly have our share of them. I have my phone on something that's it's like super magnetic. I don't think the card would, I don't know what's inside the card, so whether it would stick to something magnetic like this does with the coils. Yep. Yeah. Pratt Whitney, 3,000 workers on strike. They make these engines. They apparently do a good job of it. I haven't heard of any Pratt Whitney engines going on fire. It seems like the General Electric engines are the ones that have been, catching on fire. There is an ignition situation. There is a situation where the fuel that is pumped into the wings, jet fuel number 2, I think they call it. And there's there's a mechanism inside the engine, towards the back of the engine, where jet fuel number 2 is atomized. It's sprayed into the compression area of the engine, where the air, you see these big fans, they start rotating. And the way you start a jet engine, in case you didn't know, is these jets usually have an APU, an auxiliary power unit. And that in itself is a little tiny jet engine. It's like sideways in the fuselage somewhere. It starts with an electric motor, which starts the rotation of the fan blades, counterclockwise. You can see the way the blades are pitched. The fan rotation is counterclockwise. So that's sucking air into the engine. We're blowing air into the engine. They call it a fan jet because it looks like a big fan. When it's spinning it, it is a super precision balanced, because when it gets up to, 10,000 RPM or more, 25,000 RPM, it's usually the limit on not a limit, but the high end of how fast it rotates, and how much power the pilot needs to keep the plane at a particular altitude. Anyway, so that moves really fast. It rotates really fast. So it's sucking in a lot of air, and it's blowing the air right through the engine. And there's more fans inside there. They keep reducing down, and what do you call it? It gets down to maybe, you can see the size of the engine with regard to the man standing next to it. So the internal compression side of this engine might get down to, let's say 20 inches. A little past middle of it. They keep with these more and more fan blades, connected to a common shaft that goes through the engine, with super duper ball bearings, because this thing is spinning really fast. It has to be very stable. It has to be perfectly balanced, or else it'll, vibrate itself to death. It'll self-destruct when you get that up to 20,000 RPM, and it's sucking in a lot of, it's like incredible suction machine. Well, it's blowing out the back end too. And it's blowing really hard. That's the purpose of, atomizing jet fuel number 2, because then it's not only atomized and put in there, but there's an ignition, there's a spark. And so because there's so much air and it gets compressed to such a degree, the compression itself heats up the internal temperature. So that's what keeps the fire going, if you will, the ignition of the jet fuel, and the engine, rotates faster and faster. But it doesn't spin out of oblivion. It can be controlled. Normal flight, it would be 18 to 22,000 RPM. depending on the altitude. The higher the altitude, the thinner the air. In order to have the same amount of lift, forward motion, you would have to increase the rotation of the fan blade. Because there's a certain amount of power, thrust of the engine. It has to come out the back of that sucker, to push the plane forward, to create the airfoil, so that there's lift on the wings, all that stuff. Anyway, Pratt Whitney makes engines, makes good ones. Seems like President Trump and his people are, have a fancy for Rolls-Royce engines. Rolls-Royce company, the company that makes the famous car, also does other things. They make jet engines. And the 767, 767, I believe they used Rolls-Royce engines. They use GE engines also. I think it depends on the model of the airplane, but there are 757 airplanes that are fitted with Rolls-Royce engines, a la President Bush. Trump. How can you confuse the two? Yeah, the Trumper has. Because you remember the Trump plane that would pull up next to the hangar, and then he'd have a rally, and there'd be 35,000 screaming friends. Yeah, that Trump airplane is a 757 jet. It cost him $75 million. He's put in another 10 or 15 million in stuff in there. Yeah, completely gutted it and put all new furniture in there. His special leather with his embossed crown. I mean, before he was president, he is a multi-billionaire. So that jet is something that's near and dear to him because it gets him around the world on his time schedule. He's got a couple pilots, always on call. And when they're not flying the airplane, they're polishing all the internals. Lots of stuff in there to keep clean and beautiful. So that when the president, because he doesn't use his plane that much anymore because he's got it hasn't been because he's president now and he flies in Air Force One. There are smaller jets that are at his disposal. You don't need to fly this big 747 ocean liner. Yeah, it's a big ship. Yeah, that's a big one. I think the pilots that he has are the same pilots, even whether they fly the 757 or the 747, which is the big one, which is what's going on in the White House now. I don't know that his personal private pilots operate, in the U.S. government to fly the 747 or whatever jet that Trump uses. I think once you're in government, the pilots are like Secret Service people, which have generally multi-language requirements and all kinds of physical fitness stuff. It seems like Trump's pilots are, over 40 and under 60 in age. Just looking at them, in that 40 to 60 age category. 40 to 65, maybe. But you know, I think the Secret Service agents that fly the plane, you know, these pilots that are used, you know, are U.S. government employees. They're Secret Service enrolled people. I don't think they're his private pilots. So I don't know what they're doing, you know, for the 4 years. You know, this being president is a 24/7 thing. And I don't think he won't be flying his airplane with him in it. That's probably getting dusted and off to be, you know, put in storage. I think if the First Lady wants to fly somewhere, they have other smaller jets that she can use. Yeah, because she needs a security detail. Yeah, you just can't walk down the street anymore and be a family of a president. It's really a problem. It's a security problem for the entire country because they could grab the family member, a bad guy. I'm just making up stories now, hypotheticals. They could grab them and kidnap them, create a ransom situation. That wouldn't be good, right? So that's the problem with family members just walking down the street. They could be snatched by bad guys. Bad guys wouldn't even know what family they're connected with. And what a prize it would be if you snatched, you know, a child or a grandchild, for God's sakes, of a president of the United States. That would be a huge problem. Yeah, I mean, to say the least, that would be a huge problem. That's the best way to put it. Oh my God. Yeah. So, so there's a question, you know, the U.S. Open, I think, is coming up for the golfers. My favorite player, not my favorite golf swinger. His golf swing is a little quirky. He kind of rolls over his front foot. So he's like sitting on the side of his ankle. I know, it seems to me that would be, dangerous to just split open that joint. I don't understand what's going on there, but he leans forward on that front foot when he's finishes his full golf swing, and his front foot rolls a little bit forward on his ankle. Yeah. I said to Daniel, Daniel, watch his putting stroke. Watch how he lines up his feet and all that kind of stuff. But don't watch anything else about his golf swing. There are other players on the field that have outstanding golf swings, and I could find one here. I have to shrink this down. I have here's the prize list. Remind me of who's who. Jordan Spieth. Whoops. Yeah, there we go. This is a list of the Scotty Scheffler on top, minus 31. That ties the course record with somebody that I forget who. that had that real low course record, 25 years ago, something like that. Anyway, so he picks up a little check of $1,782,000. You generally get, that's a lot of money. I forget what the total purse was on this. That's $2,700,000, $3,000,000, $5 million purse. Next week is a bigger prize. I did a fast calculation. It seems like the paycheck is the winning paycheck. I don't even know what the next. That would be. All right, let's. Let's see what the next PGA golf event is. 2025. Let's get it down to the right year. I just hit the search, hit enter. Yeah. That's it. The Truist Championship. All right, hey, look at that golfer payout. They went right down where I wanted to be. Let's see if we can find it. What's the purse? What's the they come up with a total amount, and how do they get the total amount? See here the. $3,600,000 is the payout. First place. So if you have one putt difference between first and second, look at that, it's $1,500,000 for the putt. So when these guys miss a short putt, that could be $1 million miss. The difference between first and second place. And between second and third place, what's the $800,000 putt? So, the golfers say you drive for show and you putt for the dough, the money. You drive for show and putt for dough. And this goes down to 69th place, where you get $41,000. Let's go back up here. A lot of different. There you go. So you can see first, second, third. Whoops! I'm sorry. You can't see. There you go. Now you can see. I have to move it over a little bit. There we go. The way this is arranged, I have to watch what you see, because I got the whole iPad here, and this cable gets the signal and goes into there. And, so when you have it cropped this way, there's other crops that are usable here. I could do this one, where you get a full angle of view on this. My face is right. It's just out of view. You can see my hands. I'm here. It's not a pretty picture. I don't even have the camera on. I have a piece of tape covering the camera. There's a setting here somewhere. Is it output? one of these tabs. It seems like it's not this one. Let's look down here. No, not that one. Output. Yeah. Well, you can turn on the front camera. I turned it on the other computer. Camera. Let's see what this does. Camera. Oh, maybe it's over here. Profile. Preferences. Let's go down there. I don't know why I'm struggling to figure out how to turn on this other camera, because it's on the bottom. This is one of these lists. Stream. There we go. High output. Quality, yes. Recording. There's a check mark. Turn, like turn on, turn off the. Oh, where is this? Yeah, see, there's disable built-in camera. So I have not disabled it. So I should be able to see it on my list of cameras.
It's 9:45.
Excuse me while I'm playing. Yeah, I can see it on my list. Let's come back up here. Camera. FaceTime camera. I think that's it. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, there I am. Oh, you see? That's pretty scary. So if we add that view, and we add this view, there we go. And then we go to that crop split business, and then we put me over on the right side. Oh no. Oh yeah, there's a click down here. Swap cameras, yeah. And do that one more time. Swap cameras. Yeah, get me all the way over there. Yeah. Please. Yeah, that's better, don't you think? And we add this. I gotta swap cameras again. Swap cameras, yeah. Anyway, so we'll keep it like this. This is my oatmeal raisin cookie, by the way. I just have it sitting right there on top of my flashlight with it. Okay, so anyway, let me just do a print screen of this so we can see what the top 10. If you're in the top 10, you get 541,000. That's not bad for 4 days of golf. $115,000 a day. Yeah, you gotta play 4 days. You gotta play really good for 4 days. You got the best golfers in the world trying to beat your butt. I mean, every shot in golf is important. There was a time where I was playing golf. I don't play golf anymore. I could, but I get all worn out. I had, as you know, I had bypass surgery. So, what is this? May. in 1 month. Yeah, I believe in 1 month. June 5th is the anniversary of my surviving quadruple bypass surgery. I am a quadruple bypass surgery survivor. And let me tell you, according to my cardiologist, it was touch and go. He had to find the right surgeon to do the job. And some of the local surgeons, they had a plan, and my cardiologist said, you would not survive the plan that they have set for you. And I said, ooh, so what's plan B? I'm laying in the bed, right? I had a minor, I didn't fall down holding my chest with my heart all cramped, which apparently is really painful, like the most excruciating pain you can imagine. It's like a stomach cramp, except it's up here where your heart is, your heart muscle. You know what it's like to get a cramp in your, in the bottom of your leg, your calf, and that muscle cramps up. Whoa! That'll throw you right on the floor, oh my God. Well, just imagine your heart muscle cramping like that, which basically means it's starving for oxygen. So the muscle cramps because not enough oxygen is getting into the heart muscle. And that's can be caused by the fact that the arteries that are feeding the muscle are clogged with calcium, calcification, or it could be, a cholesterol thing where you got all kinds of fatty, the artery itself, shrinks up and, maybe it's this size, and it ends up smaller than your pinky, smaller than the diameter of the straw, and it just shrivels up, and not much blood is passing through that artery. So that's a classic bypass candidate. Your heart surgeon doesn't use words like shrivel. I don't have the right vocabulary words to speak heart medicine, But that would be, when you go through medical school, they cycle you around through all these different disciplines so that you can figure out where the heck you want to end up when you're done with medical school. It's kind of like, when you're an undergraduate in college, you get cycled through all kinds of different topics and things you have to study, so you can figure out what the hell you're going to do with the rest of your life. Can't stay in school forever, right? So you get a 4-year, 5-year, 6-year stint. It seems like it took me 63 to 60. I was a 5.5-year student, combined degree, Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, double major with 140, I think it's like 142 credit hours. Semester hours, whatever, It was semester hours. 142. That's a lot. It seems like a normal student graduates with 120. Yeah, right? 4 times 3 is, 30 hours a year, 4 years. 4 times 3 is 12, 120. So That's on average 15 semester hours. Every half year, every 6 months. You have the first semester, right? It'd be like September through January. And then the second semester would be January through, June. And July and August, are the summer months. But September you start up again. Yep, that's roughly how it goes. As I remember. Yeah, I was there. I did it. Yeah. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So that's why I ended up at all those semester hours. And it's all like, science topics. It wasn't like basket weaving. But, the problem with academia when I went to school is, you went... I mean, this is a ridiculously simplified way to talk about it. It's almost embarrassing. You go to college because you graduated from high school. So the next step is to go to college. And you figure out where you're going to go to college and who's going to accept you. So you produce your credentials and you write a resume, and some kind of, Dear Dr. Schwartz, you write a letter. And, you copy the packages and you have different letters on the front of each package, the schools that you've chatted with, so to speak, one way or the other. Anyway, so you apply to the admissions department of the schools, and I was not the best high school student. I wasn't exactly career motivated. I guess that's the right word. Yeah, I was just some little stupid little high school kid. I mean, I wasn't stupid. I was, a street smart, I was in the physical fitness thing and scored very high in the New York State physical fitness, President Kennedy's physical fitness thing, and they had contests, and they timed you with a stopwatch and all this. Yeah, I was like in the top 5 in the whole state of New York, and New York State is, not a baloney state. It's a serious state. A lot of people in relation to other states. Or Wyoming, and they got like 10 students. I'm kidding. But they might have 100,000 or 150,000, 200,000. New York State's got millions and millions of people, it seems like. Yeah. I don't know what the population was when I was a little whippersnipper in high school. But anyway, I was in the top 5 in a major state. And at West Point. And they wanted to sign me up. Oh my God, they were all over me. Because I was, I was SEAL material. Or, when you're, they were trying to sign me up. My mother, I wouldn't hear of it. No. You had the Vietnam War going on or something or other. My mother said, no, you're not going over there. No. She had nothing particularly against a military career, but she didn't like the idea of me crawling in the mud over there in Vietnam, so that didn't happen. Back to May 7th. So I had 142 hours. I was a pre-med student. I was a biochemistry student. And then somewhere in the middle of my chemistry career path, which, you know, you graduate with chemistry, what the hell are you going to do next? It seems like I had a job with the Mead Paper Company in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, I think. I had to pick a city. Mead, M-E-A-D, Mead Paper Company, the Mead family. And so I interviewed with some guy, and I said, so what am I going to Yeah, like I say, I'm just a silly little kid, and I figured, all right. So I'm meeting with this guy. Maybe I'm going to be an employee of the Mead Paper Company with my chemistry background. We're doing all kinds of chemical experiments for years. So that was I had enough criteria there. So I asked the guy, I said, so all right, let's assume the positive, and you're going to hire me and all that. What am I going to be doing at 10:30 on Tuesday morning? He said, well, can you give me an idea of my typical day? You know, starting out at the Mead Paper Company, what would I be doing? So he described, I have this visual, he had this, I don't know if you've seen what paper looks like before it's paper. You know, when they do the pulp and they liquefy it somehow. You know, wood pulp. You know, wood shavings. Just say that, wood shavings. You imagine, they're like popsicle sticks, times 10 as far as diameter, big chunks of wood. But, not like softball chunks, like, wood shavings. They take these trees and they just grind them up. Trees that aren't, don't have the right stature for slicing up and making planks of wood for building things. Anyway, so they chop up these trees into wood shavings in a machine that looks like, you've probably seen these machines that are towed behind, open back trucks, where they take the debris when they trim trees and trim palm trees, and they throw it into this machine, and on the other side is shavings that get blown into the back of the truck. Yeah, I mean, this thing whines, that thing's, rotating, with these big blades, and they throw the palm frond in there, and it chews it up and produces these shavings that I don't think palm fronds would qualify as a material for making paper. I don't know. Palm paper? Anyway, they grind up tree trunks into shavings. The shavings are then treated with some, they're washed and get rid of all the grit, and if there is grit. And they saturate the wood chips and heat it up, squish it up, I don't know, Anyway, so after a while, with some gentle mixing, you don't see tree trunks anymore, and cut up trees, it's, it becomes pulp, wood pulp. It's like a liquefied wood. So that pulp has to be maintained at a certain temperature. So he says that 10:45 in a given morning, you could be looking at the pulp, answering some questions about the pulp, time, date stamped, put your name on it somewhere. And there's a place to insert your name and your code number. And you'd have these rubber gloves that go right up to your armpit, and your fingers all the way to your shoulder, and you'd stick your arm down in there with this big glove on, with a thermometer in your hand, and you rotate the thermometer around, and to take it, and then you'd rotate that thermometer down there 18 inches below the surface, and you pull your arm out and you give me a temperature reading. Say, okay, it's whatever. I guess they didn't know about digital thermometers back then. I don't know. He was just making up a story. But if you ever smelled paper pulp, it's really nasty smelling. Yeah. It smells like rotten, not rotten vegetables, but, because it's not that soft material. It's a tougher material, that you grapple with. So I didn't take that job. Then I went back to school. Not that I ever left school. This was a road trip. Took me 2.5 hours to get there, whatever. No mean paper company for me. As a pre-med student, my girlfriend tells me, no, I never knew my father. If I'm going to marry you and you're a doctor, this relationship is over if you're going to become a doctor. I wish you well in your life. This girl just dropped me like a hot rock. That was the end of Jimmy. Yeah, no more Jimmy for Ricky Wowen. And then it was, the strangest thing is, about 5 years later, I get a call in my office. I don't know where I was. That Mrs. Wowen called. Ricky Wowen's, I don't know, was Ricky Wowen herself or her mother. It seems like her mother called my office. Like she was trying to set me up to start dating her daughter again. I distinctly remember something like that. It was in a sense, it was kind of like, I'm married, had a kid or two at this point. Lee and Robin are both, with us, And 5 years into the marriage with Steele Hill, Sherrod Steele Hill, that was her name. She passed away a year or two ago. We were divorced 46 years ago. Long time ago, huh? 1979, end of 1979, January 1980, somewhere right in there. We were finalized. It's like Simonized. Yeah, and then by some miracle, I ended up, being face to face and met Marilyn. Wow. I had no interest after that divorce of having a relationship. I said, I'm done with relationships. Oh my God. I got 2 beautiful kids, and she started fooling around with the history teacher. Oh my God. I couldn't have, I lost all faith in humanity. Are you serious? My God. I thought everything was hunky-dory. So I was preoccupied I must have been with something. Holy crap. Yeah, she's fooling around with the history teacher. I thought she told me she was taking classes at FAU at night. And she's out fooling around with the history teacher. How disgusting. One of her students ratted her out. It was actually one of her students in the science class, but it was a parent-teacher day. And I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting in Robin's homeroom class. This is 50 years ago, okay? Or something like that, yeah. And so I'm waiting there, at 8 o'clock in the morning, and at 8:20, the student-parent day, commences. So I'm in a homeroom a little early. Everyone's buzzing around in the corridors of this school building. I didn't know anybody, The teachers knew a lot of people because they're teaching students, and they know a lot of the other parents. And I'm the spouse of a teacher. I'm not teaching at that school. I wasn't teaching at the time. I was director of operations for an appliance company, actually, that sold appliances. I wasn't selling appliances anymore. I graduated into a better, higher paying job in the company, with Ed McCluskey and Bill Barnett and Red Ziner and Terry Johnson and a bunch of others. That was the principal crew that built the company, and I was in charge of, all the new stores, creating them, building them according to plan and spec. We had contractors. I was the, I guess I would be the company representative to make sure that the building was being built the way we wanted it built. Yeah. Anyway, she's teaching. And so I'm sitting there at student parent day, and I'm fidgeting around. What am I going to do? So I open up the desk, pull open. It's one of those desks where you open the day, you pull up the top, which is hinged at the back, so it pulls open, and there are books and scraps of paper in there, relatively neat. It wasn't like a garbage place. And there was a couple books in there, and a half a ream of paper, or booklet, spiral-bound booklet, I think, like a notebook. So I open up the textbook, the science book. I'm going through the science book and think, okay, what kind of science is taught to third graders? So I'm going through the textbook. I just flop open the pages. It's a big book. It was used multi-year. You could see it was checked out 4 or 5 of the, there's like a stamp in the back of the book. And you got the names of the students, you know. So this book was used for 3 or 4 years, so or 5 years with other people, and it was signed out, you know, to whoever the student was that sat in, you know, this third row seat, you know, 2 in from the side, waiting for faculty student day to start. There are no students in the building now. This is just parents and teachers. So I'm sitting there by myself. I open up this book. It flops open to a certain page. And because there was a note, a handwritten note, written from one student to another. It was folded and then put inside the middle of this book, you know, just to bury it for the time being, because whoever wrote the note didn't know what to do with the note now that it's, you know, the statement was made, or the answer to the question was given, whatever. So it had a little story about how she witnessed, how she saw Mrs. Wilson, you know, hugging and kissing, you know, with a big bear hug, you know, in the faculty lounge. You could see through the window, the student says. I forget, so I'm reading this and go, oh, shit, crap.
It's 10:15.
So I took that note and put it in my pocket and just continued looking through that science book. I figured, holy crap. So this is like a little piece of evidence. So I said, there must be something going on here. So this is like September, right? The beginning of the school year. You know, the teachers get it, I think. I'm not too sure when that was. Whether Student Parent Day was, you know, a couple months into the school year. You know, maybe that was it. You know. Anyway, that's when I learned about Steele fooling around with other people. At least that guy. I said, well, I guess that's not good for Jimmy, huh? So I finally confronted her with that, you know, right after Christmas. Yeah, that was the end of that. Got a hold of Dan Pescio. I said, draw up the papers. I created a settlement agreement, you know, handwritten on a yellow pad, handed it to Dan Pescio. I said, get this done now. It's fast, expedited. She'll sign it. And that's it. I mean, it was in the days where you didn't have to go through all this, you know, 6 months of torture meeting with other people to decide if this should really happen or not. Yeah, you know, no way. That was an unacceptable situation when, you know, you got this cheating going on. That was it for me, you know. All right, well, sorry that didn't work. And we'll do the best we can with the kiddies, but we're going to be in separate places, legally and otherwise. So she ran off to Virginia, where she grew up. I stayed where I was, and you know, in South Florida. Yeah, that was the end of that. So, I mean, about a week after that happened, I met Marilyn. I saw her, you know, I saw Marilyn floating around in the building, you know. There were 2 major buildings that had Royal Trust bankers floating around, you know. You know, I was on the 4th floor, you know, in the commercial lending floor. The first floor was retail banking, where people came in and made deposits and took money out and what, teller lines. We were up on the fourth floor where you had this highfalutin lending going on. So I did loans then, $500,000 to $3 million, that size category. Yeah. Did a bunch of them. Made a lot of good fee money for the bank. Built townhouses, built a couple of luxury houses, Anyway, I was there, multi-year, exercise for me. It's good exercise. The bank merged with another bank, and I took that opportunity to go elsewhere. That's when I started with Southeast Bank. Anyway, I ended up meeting Marilyn, and oh my God, that was like, we were like magnets. It was outstanding, It is, 45 years later, we're still in the same place. A little different relationship when you're 80, than when you're in year one of a relationship. It's like, but when you're 80, I am 80, for God's sakes. Go figure. I don't feel 80, I feel good, actually. Outstanding, actually. Got my little thing here. I'm talking to everybody, whoever wants to hear my silly stories about whatever comes to mind. You see some of these news events I go through here. People out on a boat. Can you imagine, in this Pacific waters? Come on. What's crazy? Then they're like, it could be 10 people dead. 10 people on a boat? I hope it was a pretty big boat. 10 people is a lot of people to have on a boat. 110 people, 150 pounds. That's 1,500 pounds of people. 1,800 pounds of people, depending on how heavy they are. I'm just using 150 pounds. Yeah. There's Key Smart. You can find them. They cost about $30 a piece. It was $79 for 3 of them. Special deal, 30% off. Yeah. So they're not giving them away. They need to be cheaper than that, I would think. They're rechargeable. I don't know. It's not enough time. They need to be at least a year. They only last 5 months, which probably means, probably means 17 weeks. They round it up. Yeah, I don't know. Pratt Whitney's on strike. The Pope. They're finally locked up. They're different. It's a political. This is a political season for, being a good judge of florists and so forth. So. So they're all locked up. Seems like I read something. This is the Vatican. Yeah. And the writing on the walls. This Vatican building was built 1,000 years ago. Can you imagine? These statues of people. I don't think they're named. So they're all meeting around, and they're going to cast ballots on, a proposed pope. They're all sequestered away. They call it a papal conclave. That is a Catholic religion term for sequester. When you're in the jury, you're sequestered. You may be sequestered, which means you're locked away. You can't hear from anything on the outside. You can't say anything to anyone on the outside. You're locked away, all of you. You can all talk to each other. They want you to talk to each other. The religious persons of the Catholic Church inside the Vatican. So you had cardinals. Those are the religious folks that are dressed up in, a red, with red on their belts and red in their headgear, whatever that might be. So they all show up. There's hundreds of them. 300, 400. But, leave their native country and come, played in the politics of, I guess, trying to get elected as Trump, as a biographer. So that's what's going on with the papacy. All very secret. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. Trump made a statement yesterday. He said, "I have some unbelievable news. It is some of the most important news you've ever heard of in the last few years about this particular topic. And before I go to Geneva next week, either Thursday, Friday, or this weekend, I'll tell you the news I have to report to you. But not today. In a couple of days." So, I mean, this guy is like a master at whipsawing the media, into some kind of a frenzy on, what the hell he's got up his sleeve now. So he's got some major announcement about something. Maybe he made a deal with Iran where they're going to give up their nuclear program instead of being, they bombed the hell out of the Houthis. So the Houthis said, "Whoo, I've had it." And he damn near blew them all out. You know, it was a major bombing effort, and sometimes when you're dealing with a relatively primitive society like the Houthis, I mean, they have missiles and shit. They buy from Iran and this and that. But it's all old equipment, it's certainly no contest for the American military. We've got, some pretty high-tech stuff. So, when we go out on a mission, so maybe Iran got the message, hey, we better do something here, because these guys are not going to allow us to do this nuclear thing. Trump made it very clear that there's not going to be a nuclear program, a nuclear weapons program in Iran. And they're working like crazy to do it. They got these centrifuges, and they're trying to concentrate this uranium so that when they have, the uranium and the plutonium, and they bring it together and it goes boom, and you got a nuclear explosion of certain, sizes, and depending on how concentrated this uranium stuff is. Anyway, so this earth-shaking news, which Trump is holding under his belt. The media is, doing all kinds of speculation of what it might be. He's he's a master at making the media, go nuts. Just trying to display this belt buckle, which I just changed out. This is my Tesla. See the T in the middle and the star of Texas? This is my Tesla belt buckle. It was provided to me gratuitously by the Tesla people when we bought our second car. I ended up with a belt buckle. It's heavy. It's got this lug here. You put I have just an American, what does it say? It says United States of America on there. I have my eyes on another belt buckle. I gotta swap out these buckles, Not that anyone sees them, but, It's the American flag. It's made out of brass. That's my next belt buckle. I tried out this one. I have to measure it and see. I like this size. This is a little bit too big. You can see in relation to my hand and my fingers. That's a pretty big belt buckle. I need something more manageable size. Yeah. All right. What's going on here? I'm yakking around here an hour and a half. Deportations. They are deporting. It's a massive deportation effort. Now, the Supreme Court is supposed to come out with some ruling on certain cases, but they're deporting the hell out of these bad guys. And they, apparently the judges or the legal people aren't chasing all these bad guys into the courtrooms. They're talking about due process. We want everyone. Well, they're getting due process. They have a hearing before a deportation judge. And the judge, rules, deport. He doesn't have papers. He doesn't have this, that. And, he's out of here. You don't just, you don't have a visa. We don't even know who you are exactly. Goodbye. That's about how open and closed those cases are. Yeah, right. You're worried about political asylum. You don't even know what day of the week it is. Anyway, they're finding places like in Libya. You got some pretty nasty jails in some of these other countries. It's not like the white floors and the colored TVs they got in our jails. U.S. Department of Homeland Security, there it is. That's quite a logo, huh? ICE reportedly is targeting some businesses and some restaurants, essentially, I wouldn't say housing deportees, but, they're working there, in the back of the kitchen, washing dishes or whatever. So, the Department of Homeland Security is exercising its muscle to, deal with the deportees. I isolated the logo from this little story. The mayor, one of the D.C. mayors, says that ICE is apparently, investigating restaurants and neighborhoods. The local police know where the bad guys are. So ICE is spending considerable time with the local policing agencies to get ideas on where some of these bad guys are holed up. And then, ICE is on their own. They're not being escorted by local police agencies necessarily, particularly in these, what do you call it? Sanctuary cities where, what is a sanctuary? It's a place where you can be holed up. You get all kinds of lady sanctuaries, where they have all the facial treatments and the massage rooms and, exercise rooms and trainers and, yoga, this and that. But there's a lot of attention given to, that ICE spends with local police agencies to try and figure out where these bad guys are floating around. And they're picking them off. They're filling up these holding bins, with people, separating them by country or regions, and they're flying them right back to where they came from. Now, if they fill out some certain paperwork, and you're going to take advantage of the $1,000 that you're assured, if you self-deport, which that's a good idea. Instead of having to crank through our system and the time it takes to locate, incarcerate, and then adjudicate, and then deport, that costs about $17,000 according to government estimates, or at least someone in government estimated that, as opposed to there you go. Try to get the reflection out of there. There you go, that's good. So while the Supreme Court is working on some, the Department of Homeland Security is going other ways, but they're deporting like crazy. And Trump said that's what he was going to do. The American people voted with unanimous, not only got the popular vote, my God, a Republican, got the, enough electoral votes. It was, I remember the broadcast of election night. Oh my God, nervous Nilly here, waiting for polls to close, and the electronic count to come out, and state by state, moving across the country as the time zones change, as the evening gets older. By 9 or 10 o'clock, it was getting very exciting. But no real news on who's, it was like neck and neck. When they added it all up, it was, you could say it was a landslide victory and this and that. But when you just look at the raw vote, it's about 1.4 million and change. From 70 this million to 70 that million. So 7 7 is 14. So let's say it's 150 million people voted. Well, there are 277 million people that are of the voting age or above. 270 million, and only 150 million voted. That's 100 million people sat on the couch and didn't even bother to vote. That's unbelievable. 100 million, all the crap that's going on. No tax on tips. I thought that was a brilliant move. And no tax on Social Security. That's another brilliant move. Those are two big blocks of people that if anything will get them off the couch and go do something about voting. That is a category that shook my bones, I'm telling Marilyn, I said, "Hey, yeah, that saves us about, $12,000 worth of tax liability on the gross checks we get from Social Security. Now it's not taxed. They're, starting in 2025, assuming they pass that tax bill, which they're working on right now. They're going to get that through. They have to. Yeah, God. Because it's going to get through the House, and the Senate is in the bag for Republicans. Got a good majority in the Senate. So that's just a matter of scheduling the vote. So there are other tax components that they're mixing up with some of these other things. So, the vote becomes a difficult one as a conservative because you're desired to give an answer. So I need to go help Marilyn distribute stuff around. She's at work. I got to clean up stuff. I've had a couple of oatmeal raisin cookies. This is my last one for that package. There we go. Break off a little piece. You can see. There it is. Oh, yeah. It's so good. A little sip of my warm coffee. Probably need a fresh one of those. That's 7:30 a.m. version. It's 10:30, 10:40. That's 3 hours old, but it's in this thermos cup, so it stays warm. It's not cold. It would be if it was in a regular cup. It's warm. Actually, don't I have a thermometer here somewhere? I don't know why I have a thermometer here, but I do. There it is. We can, yeah, 73.6. Let's check the temperature of my clock. 118 degrees. Starts out at 145. Get the straw through the little hole here. 118.2. There it is. I got one here and one in the kitchen. Those things, they're like $20 a piece now. They used to be like $400. Now they're $20. $400, you don't own one. $20, you own one. This is actually designed to measure the temperature coming out of an air duct. It's very directional. Yeah. Look at the temperature coming out of the air duct, 55 degrees. You wonder why it's 68 in this room? That's because I got 55 degree air coming. 55.0. There you can see. Yep. Pretty chilly. 68 in here. It seems like it's always that way in some kind of a, a studio situation. I mean, I got multi-layers on here. I got 3 or 4 layers, so I'm not cold at all. And my legs are a little bit, 68 degrees. It's 68.2, so it's really close to 68. 0.3 of a degree more, and it's 67 something. Yes, sir. So if these doors get closed a little bit, like they are now, actually just to cover. That's just to cover. The sun comes right smack through here early in the morning. The way the angle of the sun. Yeah. All right, sports fans. It's according to my clock. If I turn this a little bit more, there you go. Now we get, you can see it's 10:46 a.m. Yep. And I've been talking an hour and 45 minutes. Here, if you ever, LDL, you've heard of that cholesterol? They take blood samples, right? Here's a blood sample, right there. Someone's name is on the other side of the label. There's a serial number on it, for the medical security standpoint. So in green, I noted reduce. It's there are trials on dealing with this LDL. Well, you ever know what people use these words. What does LDL stand for? Here it is: low density lipoproteins. LDL, low density lipoproteins or lipoproteins. Probably lipoproteins would be a better way of saying it. Yeah. I'm someone that has to know how to pronounce these words, or I can't remember what the hell's. Anyway, so you want to reduce your LDLs. The research determines, what levels are safe and all that. And there are ways of reducing, your bad. The LDLs are your bad cholesterols. You see that? The bad cholesterol. You don't want LDLs. So how do you reduce? Sustain or reduce? Sustain means don't let it get any worse, or it's too high, you got to bring it down. So there's statin drugs you can take. I'm taking a statin drug, which tends to reduce the levels of LDL. I haven't had a blood test in a while, but yeah, I've had blood tests. I've had a lot of blood tests. And so I take 40 milligrams of the statin drug once or twice a day. And that tends to reduce the LDLs. My problem is blood pressure. At my age, blood pressure is an issue. Every once in a while, it's higher than it should be. I'm going to give myself. I have my blood pressure thing out here, so I'm going to use it this afternoon when I'm quietly sitting on the couch. Right now I'm hungry and I'm drinking coffee, and that of course brings up your blood pressure. Yes, sir. Look at all the news media reaching over with their microphones, trying to pick up the voice of the president. You got Marco Rubio there sitting on the couch. The vice president sitting on the couch. Yeah, we figured out what the purse is for the Truist Championship. I'll send that to Daniel. He'll be interested in knowing that. All right, so we're done. So on that happy note, I'm going to go back. I'm supposed to go back to this one. Yeah, make that full screen. And then I have to shut down my voices. And I'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I'll give you some uninterrupted epidemic sound. It really should sound pretty good.